Good morning, everyone. Joining us today is Constantine Lau, the Global Marketing Director for Schneider Electric. He spent 20 years in marketing and management roles for the process industries, primarily in the downstream oil and gas. For the benefit of our audience, Schneider Electric is a worldwide manufacturing and service enterprise serving customers in many manufacturing sectors. The company is a leader in digital transformation, integrating process and energy technologies to realize efficiency and sustainability opportunities for their customers.
The CMO's Guide to Everything podcast is sponsored by Advertas, a digital marketing agency. Advertas helps B2B technology companies to target potential customers with laser accuracy and micro-targeted messaging. The firm leverages a mix of creativity, strategy, and digital technology to produce measurable results. To learn more, visit advertas.com.
Welcome, Con. A good place.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks. A good place to start might be the general size and shape of your international market at Schneider Electric. Could you maybe share a little bit about Schneider and that market?
Yeah, Schneider Electric is a French-based company. It's been around for a long, long time. He's a huge company with $27 billion revenue and 160,000 employees. Our market consists of multiple segments. The revenue is quite evenly distributed across worldwide. 25% North America, 25% Europe, and 25% Middle East, and 25% Asia Pacific. So it's quite evenly distributed. We specializes in industrial automation and energy management. To pick an example for the oil and gas downstream industry, for example, like in the refinery and petrochemical plant, anything related to the automation and also the power system and energy management system. I'd like to draw a parallel. It's like a human being, anything related to the brain, to the neural systems, controls and power, we do it, and we provide a solution for that.
Great. I know this is a time of pretty drastic change for the process industries as manufacturers are looking to maintain supply and demand balances with sustainability initiatives and regulatory compliance. Price of oil's down, focus on sustainability is up. What are the biggest challenges for you in terms of changing the marketing strategy?
Yeah, let me first define a marketing program is consisting of different multiple campaigns. So as a marketeer, you have different tools or different campaigns you can focus on. So with the current, obviously the current most impactful thing is the pandemic, right?
Right.
And also for the oil and gas industry is the sustainability initiatives. That has taken the whole industry by storm. But the pandemic, obviously, the first thing is the impact is the revenue, and also the remoteness, the remote operations. So that kind of changes the way we have to approach our clients, because no longer you can meet up with your clients frequently as you like. So you have to connect with them through digital means, right? Social media, either organic or paid. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So what do you see is key in that pivot to making that transition successfully?
Well, first and foremost, there's two things. One is content is the most important thing. When you try to communicate with your clients, you have to have substantial, meaningful content to deliver to your clients. And the clients we're dealing with typically are technically pretty savvy, because we talk about industrial automation and energy management systems. So you have to have meaningful content. And then secondly, the more important thing is how you deliver that content to your client, right? The different means of delivering to your clients, either through a blog, a white paper, a webinar, or even through your social media, and also about account-based marketing, which I touch upon a little bit later on too.
Okay, all right. We'll look forward to that. So you put a lot of effort into creating the pull effect in marketing as opposed to the push. What do you think the biggest contributors are to creating that pull?
Yeah, let me define pull and push.
Sure.
In marketing terms, push means a lot of related to selling, right? Because your company CEO wants to see the effect of your marketing. And a lot of times it's associated with the selling part, how much that marketing campaign has contributed to the selling of your product, right? So there's a lot of push. The push is usually the sales part, how we push the message to our client, or you create a discount strategy to your client, or how you push the message to your client. The pull effect is lay the content, the information out in the marketplace, and to draw your client to your sales guy, right? If you in direct selling, or in direct selling, the channel wise, your content laid out in the public, how they draw you to your channel partners. That's what I mean by push or pull.
Sure.
And with the pandemic, it's hard to push a message around because you don't see your clients as often as you like. So you need to put meaningful content out there and draw your clients to it. So when your client meet up with your sales or your channel partners, they already know your message. They already formulate a brand image of your company, and that will improve your chances of closing the sales.
That makes a lot of sense. So, you touched a little bit on how the pandemic has changed efforts in 2020. As we come out of it in 2021, how do you think that it will go back? Do you think these things are here to stay, or do you think that we'll revert back to many of the sort of brass tacks things that we did before?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the elephant in the room is that when things goes bad, usually the company will cut the marketing dollars, right? So you have to find meaningful way of delivering your message. So coming out of this pandemic, I think eventually everything will go back to normal. But with the limited resources, either people or money you have in your marketing dollars, you have to be a little bit smarter how you spend the money. And there are different ways of spending the money. So I was talking about account-based marketing. Schneider Electric is pretty big on account-based marketing because we have 20% of revenue is driven. For example, in oil and gas segment, 20% of revenue driven by the 80% of revenue driven by the 20% of our accounts. Those are the big accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say account-based marketing, we have we target a specific number of customers within a strategic accounts, like a big oil and gas company, and then we'll disseminate message to those guys. For example, like a customized newsletter that we distribute to our clients every quarterly, with very specific content catered to that particular account. So the account manager had to do some work and figure out what the client's needs and challenges are, and then we'll customize the content and deliver it to those clients. And it has been proven to be pretty effective. For example, an account that we targeted initially, we have about 150, 200 names on the list. Eventually, 2 years later, we have about 600 to 800 names on the list now. So we have specific target account names that we target to disseminate a message, either white paper, blogs, or newsletters. And those doesn't cost money, right?
Yeah, no, my comment to that was going to be that sort of implies a very hand-in-hand working relationship between marketing and sales, and typically you don't see that just a whole lot.
Yes.
What do you think has been the secret to getting there? Did you just put them all in a room and say, figure it out?
No, I mean, obviously, when you push come to shove, when the company tells you, hey, we don't have the same amount of marketing dollars you have last year to use, then you have to be creative of what you try to create your marketing campaign. For example, conferences are typically a very effective marketing tool because you can draw your customer to a gathering, and you can exchange ideas and create excitement about your brand. But with the pandemic, you don't have that luxury anymore. You cannot have conferences, so you create online conferences to replace that. Schneider Electric is pretty creative in that way. We have called the virtual conferences. You go into the conference, you go into the screen, and you walk into a conference, and you can walk around the lobby and look at the topics you're interested in. You click on that particular kiosk, and then you bring it to your specific topic, and that person with a video will talk to you. It's almost like a virtual AI-driven kind of conferences. It's pretty creative. So that is to replace the actual in-person conferences with a virtual conference.
Yeah, I bet that level of creativity kind of staves off the virtual event fatigue when you've got something really engaging like that.
Yeah. Initially, when the pandemic started, we tried a lot of the webinars. And 6 months later, we figured out everybody kind of got the webinar fatigue. So we're trying to try different avenue. The content, obviously, we'll come back to the content again, is very important because we start submitting a lot of paper to conferences. And then if you have good content, your paper will get selected, and that's a free social media for you. And usually the audience for those are quite technical too. So that pays off for us.
Well, very good. Well, are there any other sort of main points or tips you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Like I said, you just have to be creative. Marketing program consists of different campaigns, different things you can try, like account-based marketing, and sometimes you can do voice of customers, discovery process with your clients. It's a way of selling, but not being self-serving, but also try to find out what your customer pain points are. In the oil and gas segment, the hot topics are today are obviously the pandemic, sustainability, digitalization, and cybersecurity. Those are interesting topics, and you can use that as a pivot to draw your content, create your content to draw your customers in. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Con, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And everybody out there, you're welcome to find us on social media at CMOGTE. Con, hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and drop us a review on iTunes. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear from you. Tag me on Twitter at CMOGTE Podcast and let me know what you think about the show and if there's any topic you'd like to hear about in the future. And until next time, this is Laura Cuddle, your host from the CMO's Guide to Everything.